They say you never forget the moment your life changes forever. Mine changed at 11:47 on a Thursday night in October when the rain was coming down so hard in Columbus, Ohio, that the gutters couldn't keep up and the streets had turned into rivers. I was hunched over my laptop in the home office, spreadsheets bleeding into one another as my eyes fought to stay focused. Tax season never really ended for guys like me, small business accountant, one-man operation, the kind of professional who survived on referrals and reputation. My client needed this report by 8 a.m. tomorrow, and I'd promised. James Mitchell never broke a promise. The security camera alert made my phone buzz against the desk. Movement detected. Front porch. 11:47 p.m. I frowned at the notification thumb already swiping to the camera app. Nobody knocked on doors at midnight in suburban Columbus. Nobody except cops with bad news or neighbors with emergencies, and I'd already gotten the worst news life could deliver when Jennifer packed her bags 2.5 years ago. The camera feed loaded slow through the rain-soaked lens, grainy darkness, then a shape. A person. Female from the silhouette, staggering up my front steps like she'd been running for miles. I was already moving, taking the stairs two at a time, my socked feet silent on the hardwood. Through the front door's peephole, I could see her better now. Soaked to the bone, long hair plastered to her face and neck, one hand reaching for the doorbell, but not quite making it. Then she dropped. Just collapsed right there on my welcome mat, knees buckling, body crumpling like someone had cut her strings. I yanked the door open, cold rain immediately lashing my face as I dropped to my knees beside her. She'd fallen face down, and for one terrible second I thought she might be dead, but then I saw her back rising and falling with shallow breaths. I rolled her over as gently as I could, getting my arms under her shoulders, and the porch light fell across her face. Everything inside me went still. Rachel Morgan. The name hit me like a physical blow. Rachel Morgan, who I hadn't seen in 8 years. Rachel Morgan, who I'd been half in love with at Ohio State, who'd laughed at my terrible jokes in the library at 2 a.m. and explained organic chemistry like it was poetry. Rachel Morgan, who'd graduated and vanished into medical school somewhere on the East Coast, and who I'd convinced myself I'd never see again. Rachel Morgan unconscious on my front porch with a bruise fading to yellow-green on the side of her neck. I gathered her up. She'd always been small, but now she felt lighter than she should, like she'd been carved hollow, and carried her inside. The rain followed us in, dripping off both of us onto the entryway tile. I kicked the door shut and got her to the couch, grabbing the throw blanket off the back and wrapping it around her shoulders. Her clothes were drenched, her whole body shaking with cold. Rachel, Rachel, can you hear me? Towels, I needed towels. I sprinted to the linen closet, came back with an armload, started trying to dry her hair, her face. Her skin was ice cold under my hands. Come on, Rachel, wake up. Please wake up. Her eyelids fluttered, once, twice. Then her eyes opened, unfocused and glassy, the same warm brown I remembered, but now rimmed with red and shadowed underneath, like she hadn't slept in weeks. Confusion crossed her face first, then recognition, then something that looked like relief and terror mixed together. James. Her voice came out as barely a whisper, hoarse and breaking. Yeah, it's me. You're okay. You're safe. But she wasn't okay. The moment the words "you're safe" left my mouth, something in her shattered. Her face crumpled, and she started sobbing, not the quiet, dignified crying you do at funerals, but the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep and broken, the kind that shakes your whole body and steals your breath. I didn't know what to do. 8 years ago, we'd been friends, good friends, maybe even best friends, for those overlapping semesters at Ohio State. We'd studied together, argued about philosophy and politics, grabbed late-night food from the 24-hour diner off campus. But we'd never been this. We'd never been her crying in my living room while I held a towel around her shoulders and tried not to think about what kind of hell had brought her back to me looking like this. I'm sorry, she managed between sobs. I'm so sorry, James. I didn't know where else to go. I shouldn't have come here. Hey, stop. You're exactly where you should be. She shook her head violently, hair whipping water droplets across the couch. You don't understand. He's going to find me. He always finds me. I can't. Who's going to find you? But she was spiraling now, hyperventilating, the words tumbling out in a rush that didn't make sense. Something about Philadelphia, Something about a car, something about him watching her, always watching. I grabbed her hands, cold trembling, and held them firmly in mine. Rachel, look at me. It took her a moment, but her eyes finally focused on my face. You're safe here. Whatever's happening, whoever you're running from right now, you're safe, I promise. She stared at me for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. I made tea because it was something to do with my hands, and because my mom always said hot tea fixed everything. While the kettle heated, I grabbed dry clothes from my dresser, sweatpants, and a hoodie that would swallow her whole, but at least they were warm. Set them on the bathroom counter and told her she could change while I waited. She emerged 10 minutes later, swimming in my oversized Ohio State hoodie, her wet hair wrapped in a towel. The bruise on her neck was more visible now without the curtain of hair hiding it. Definitely a bruise. Definitely shaped like fingers. She caught me looking and pulled the hoodie collar higher. We sat at the kitchen table with steaming mugs between us. I didn't push. I just waited the way you wait for a scared animal to decide you're not a threat. Finally, she spoke. I left my residency program 4 months ago. I tried to hide my surprise. Rachel had lived for medicine. It was all she'd talked about at school, the thing that lit her up from the inside. Becoming a doctor wasn't just her plan, it was her identity. I met someone, she continued staring into her tea, at the hospital, Dr. David Brennan. He was a cardiothoracic surgeon, visiting professor, brilliant, accomplished. Everything I thought I wanted to be. Past tense. Everything I thought I wanted to be. We started dating about 2 years ago. At first it was good. He was supportive, encouraging. He'd review my cases with me, help me study for boards. I thought I was lucky. She paused, took a shaky sip of tea. Then it started changing. Little things at first. He'd critique the way I presented cases. Tell me I was too emotional with patients, that I needed to develop thicker skin. I thought he was helping me improve. He had 20 years of experience. Who was I to question him? I could see where this was going. My hands tightened around my mug. It got worse. He started deciding what I wore to the hospital, who I could be friends with. He said he was protecting my reputation, that people were judging me. I started second-guessing every decision I made, every diagnosis, every treatment plan. I was terrified of being wrong, because being wrong meant disappointing him, and disappointing him meant... Her voice broke. I made mistakes, real mistakes. Patients could have been hurt. I couldn't function anymore. The anxiety was constant. So I quit, just walked away from everything I'd worked for. Rachel. We broke up 3 weeks ago. I finally worked up the courage to end it. Moved back to my parents' house in Cleveland. I thought that would be the end of it. She looked up at me then, and the fear in her eyes made my chest tight. But he won't let me go. He calls, he texts, he shows up places. Tonight I looked out my parents' window, and his car was just sitting there, across the street, watching the house. I panicked, got in my car and drove. I wasn't thinking. I just needed to get away. And somehow I ended up on your street, and I remembered you'd bought a house in this neighborhood, and... She stopped, drew a ragged breath. I didn't know where else to go. I wanted to ask how she'd remembered where I lived. Wanted to ask why, after 8 years of silence, she thought of me. Wanted to ask 1,000 questions that didn't matter right now. You did the right thing, I told her. Coming here was exactly right. But I'm putting you in danger. If he followed me, then we'll deal with it together. She shook her head. You don't understand. David Brennan is powerful, respected, connected. And I'm nobody. I'm a med school dropout with anxiety issues who can't even... My phone rang. We both froze. The screen showed unknown number. 1:30 in the morning. Nobody called at 1:30 unless it was an emergency or... Don't answer it, Rachel whispered. I answered it. Put it on speaker. James Mitchell. The voice was male, smooth-cultured, the kind of voice that belonged to someone who'd gone to expensive schools and never had to raise it to get what he wanted. Who is this doctor? David Brennan. I'm looking for Rachel Morgan. I believe she's with you. Rachel went white. Her hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. I don't know what you're talking about. Please don't insult my intelligence, Mr. Mitchell. Rachel drives a blue Honda Civic with Ohio plates. It's currently parked in your driveway at 2157 Maple Street. Lovely neighborhood, very safe. Do you live alone? Or is there perhaps a child in the house? I noticed the elementary school down the street is Riverside Elementary. Excellent test scores. My blood went cold. Mia. He knew about Mia. What do you want? I want Rachel to understand that she's making a mistake. We can resolve this like adults. She simply needs to come home, and we can discuss things rationally. I'm willing to forgive her for this episode. She doesn't need your forgiveness, and she's not going anywhere. Silence on the line, long enough that I thought he might have hung up. Then, Mr. Mitchell, you seem like a reasonable man. Surely you understand that Rachel and I have history, complicated history. She's not well. She left a demanding medical program under questionable circumstances. She's been seeing a therapist. She's fragile, and I only want what's best for her. What's best for her is that you leave her alone. I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon, Mr. Mitchell. I save lives. I have impeccable credentials and an unblemished reputation. You're an accountant in suburban Ohio. Who do you think the authorities will believe when I tell them that Rachel is having a mental health crisis and you're enabling her delusions? My jaw clenched so hard I could hear my teeth grinding. This conversation is over. If you contact us again, I'm calling the police. By all means, call them. I'll be happy to explain that my fiancée is missing and I'm concerned for her safety. Ex-fiancé. I heard his sharp intake of breath. Score 1 point for me getting under his skin. Rachel knows where she belongs, he said, voice harder now. She'll come back. They always do. Until then, Mr. Mitchell, I suggest you be very careful. Accidents happen, especially to people who interfere in matters they don't understand. The line went dead. Rachel was shaking again, arms wrapped around herself. Oh God, he knows where I am. He knows about your daughter. James, I have to leave. Right now, I can't. Stop. She looked at me with wild eyes. You're not leaving. Not tonight. Not while he's out there watching and waiting. We're going to lock every door and window. We're going to set the security system. And tomorrow we're going to figure out the next steps. But right now, you're staying put. But Mia is asleep upstairs and safe. And she's going to stay that way, I promise. Rachel looked at me for a long moment. Whatever she saw in my face must have convinced her because she finally nodded. I showed her to the guest room, kept it ready for when my sister Sarah visited from Cleveland. Clean sheets, extra blankets, the basics. Rachel stood in the doorway looking small and lost in my oversized clothes. I don't deserve this, she whispered. Your kindness. After all this time, after showing up like this. 8 years ago, my mom had emergency heart surgery, I said. You sat with me in that hospital waiting room for 6 hours. You didn't have to. We weren't even that close. But you were there. She blinked. I could see her remembering it. Now it's my turn, I told her. Get some sleep. We'll figure out tomorrow when tomorrow comes. I left her there and went back downstairs. Checked every lock twice. Armed the security system. Then sat in the living room with my laptop searching for information on Dr. David Brennan. He was easy to find. His professional profile was impressive. Graduated from Johns Hopkins Fellowship at Mass General, 20 years of surgical experience, published extensively, taught at 3 medical schools. Photos showed a handsome man in his mid-40s with silver-touched dark hair and the kind of confident smile that probably made patients trust him instantly. Then I found the older articles, buried deeper in the search results. Local surgeon's wife dies in tragic home accident. The article was 3 years old. Catherine Brennan, 38, had fallen down the stairs at the couple's Philadelphia home. Died from blunt force trauma. The investigation had been brief. No signs of foul play. Dr. Brennan had been devastated, according to neighbors. The funeral had been private. I kept digging. Found a small mention in a victim advocacy blog, one of those poorly formatted sites that documented domestic violence cases. Catherine Brennan had visited the emergency room 6 times in the 2 years before her death. Fractured wrist, bruised ribs, concussion, dislocated shoulder. Every time a different explanation. Fell while jogging, car accident, walked into a cabinet, slipped on ice. My stomach turned over. I printed everything. Rachel needed to see this, but not tonight. Tonight she needed sleep more than she needed fresh nightmares. I was still up when dawn started graying the windows, too wired to even think about sleeping. Somewhere around 6:30, I heard small footsteps on the stairs. Mia appeared in the living room doorway, blonde hair sticking up in every direction, clutching her stuffed elephant. 6 years old and already too perceptive for her own good. "Daddy, you didn't come to bed?" "Got caught up working bug, sorry." She patted over, climbed into my lap, even though she was getting too big for it. "You only stay up all night when something's wrong. Are you sad?" Out of the mouths of children. My little girl had learned to read my moods when her mother left, when I'd spent too many nights sitting alone in the dark trying to figure out how to be both parents at once. Not sad, just had something important to take care of. "Mommy called yesterday, I forgot to tell you." My jaw tightened. Jennifer called maybe once a month, usually when the guilt got too heavy for her to ignore. She'd talk to Mia for 10 minutes about nothing important, then disappear back into her new life in Seattle. What did she want? She said she might come visit for Thanksgiving. Maybe. Mia's voice was carefully neutral, the way it always was when she talked about her mother. She'd learned early not to get her hopes up. "That would be nice," I lied. "Can I have chocolate chip pancakes?" "Regular pancakes. The chocolate chips are fake vitamins, bug." She giggled. Then her eyes caught on the guest room door down the hall. "Daddy is someone here." Couldn't lie to her. "Yeah, an old friend of mine needed a place to stay for a few days. Her name's Rachel." "Is she nice?" "Very nice. You'll meet her later. But right now, let's let her sleep okay." We were halfway through breakfast, regular pancakes, which Mia had accepted with only minimal complaints, when Rachel appeared in the kitchen doorway. She looked marginally better after sleep, though the shadows under her eyes hadn't faded, and she was still wearing my clothes. Mia's eyes went wide. She wasn't used to seeing strange women in the house. Jennifer had burned that bridge too thoroughly. "Hi," Rachel said softly. "This is my daughter, Mia." I said, "Mia, this is Rachel. She's staying with us for a little while." Mia studied Rachel with the serious intensity only small children could pull off. Then, "Are you okay?" Rachel blinked. What? You look sad and scared. Are you okay?" Rachel's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back quickly. I'm having a hard time right now, but your dad is helping me." Mia nodded like this made perfect sense. "Daddy helps lots of people. He helped at Mrs. Patterson when her house flooded, and he helped Mr. Chen with his taxes when Mr. Chen thought he was going to jail. Daddy's really good at helping." "I can see that," Rachel said, and the look she gave me made my chest tight. "Do you like dinosaurs?" Mia asked. Yes. "Good, because I know everything about dinosaurs and I can teach you." Just like that, Mia had decided Rachel was acceptable. She launched into an explanation of why T-Rex arms were actually very useful, that somehow tied into orbital mechanics, and Rachel sat down at the kitchen table and listened like this was the most fascinating thing she'd ever heard. I made coffee and watched them, trying not to think about how right it felt to have Rachel here, how easily she fit into the spaces Jennifer had left empty. After breakfast, after I dropped Mia at school with strict instructions to the office staff that only I or my sister Sarah were authorized to pick her up, I sat Rachel down with the printouts about Catherine Brennan. She read them slowly, face going progressively more pale. "Oh my God," she whispered when she finished. "His wife. He killed her, didn't he? I don't know. Officially, it was an accident. But those ER visits? He grabbed my arm once, hard enough to leave bruises that lasted 2 weeks. And he pushed me into a wall when I contradicted him in front of his colleagues." Rachel's hands were shaking. "I could have been next." "But you're not. You got out. That took courage." She laughed bitterly. "Courage, I ran away in the middle of the night and collapsed on your porch. That's not courage, James. That's cowardice." "No, staying would have been cowardice. Leaving was brave." She didn't look convinced. But before I could argue further, my phone rang. Detective Mark Santos, Columbus Police Department. I'd left a voicemail at 7 a.m. asking him to call me back. I answered, putting it on speaker so Rachel could hear. "Mr. Mitchell, you said you needed to report harassment." I explained the situation as concisely as I could. Rachel Morgan staying with me temporarily. Ex-boyfriend, Dr. David Brennan, calling and making veiled threats. Currently stalking her from Pennsylvania. Detective Santos was sympathetic, but not encouraging. I understand, Mr. Mitchell, and I'm sorry Mrs. Morgan is going through this. But without explicit threats or physical violence, there's not much we can do. Has Dr. Brennan broken any laws in Ohio? He called me at 1:30 in the morning and implied that he knew where my daughter goes to school. Implied, not stated directly. I gritted my teeth. No, not directly. Then I'm afraid my hands are tied. Ms. Morgan can file for a restraining order, but since Dr. Brennan is in Pennsylvania and hasn't made contact with her in Ohio yet. He called my number looking for her. Your number, not hers. Technically, that's not harassment of Ms. Morgan. It's harassment of you, and unless you want to file against him, what about his dead wife? Silence on the line. Excuse me. Catherine Brennan died 3 years ago in a fall downstairs. But she'd been to the ER 6 times in 2 years with suspicious injuries. I'm looking at the records right now. More silence. Then, Mr. Mitchell, that case was investigated by Philadelphia PD and closed as accidental death. If you have new evidence, you'd need to contact them. But I can't or won't. Can't different jurisdiction, different case. I'm sorry. He gave me the number for Philadelphia PD's cold case unit, told me to document every contact with Brennan, every incident, build a case file. Then maybe we could get a restraining order. I hung up, feeling like I just slammed into a brick wall. They can't help us, Rachel said flatly. Not a question. Not yet, but we're not giving up. We document everything, we build a case, and we make sure he doesn't get within 100 feet of you. James, you don't understand. David has money, connections, lawyers. He's thought 3 steps ahead already. While we're trying to document incidents, he's probably talking to his attorney about how to paint me as unstable. He'll say I'm having a breakdown, that I quit my residency because I couldn't handle the pressure, that I'm delusional and you're enabling me. Then we prove he's lying. How? Good question. I didn't have a good answer. My phone buzzed. Email from an unknown sender. No subject line. I opened it. The photo loaded slowly. When it finished, my blood ran cold. It was Rachel and me leaving the police station earlier that morning, taken from across the street, shot through the branches of a tree. Clear enough to identify us. Clear enough to send a message. Below the photo, a single line of text. You think the police can protect her. You're making a mistake, Mr. Mitchell. Rachel belongs with me. I showed Rachel. She went white. He's here, she whispered, in Columbus. He's watching us right now. I forwarded the email to Detective Santos. Called him back. Got voicemail. This is James Mitchell. I just sent you photographic evidence that Dr. Brennan is in Columbus and stalking us. Please call me back. Then I did what I should have done hours ago. I called my sister. Sarah picked up on the third ring, sounding harried. James, I'm in the middle of, I need you to come over. It's important. Something in my voice must have gotten through because she dropped the irritated big sister tone immediately. What's wrong? Just come over, please. I'll explain everything. 30 minutes later, Sarah was sitting at my kitchen table, listening to the whole story with an expression that cycled through disbelief, horror, and fury. And you let her stay, she said when I finished. James, you have a 6-year-old daughter in this house. This psycho knows where you live. He's threatening you. And she had nowhere else to go. She has parents in Cleveland, send her there. He already found her there. That's why she ran. Sarah rubbed her temples. Okay, but James, you need to be realistic about this. You're an accountant, not a bodyguard. You can't protect her from someone like this, and you absolutely cannot risk Mia's safety. I know that. You think I don't know that. But Sarah, if I turn her away, what happens to her? She goes back to her parents' house where he already knows to look for her. She gets a hotel where she's completely alone and vulnerable. She is not your responsibility. I met my sister's eyes. 8 years ago, Mom had her heart attack. I was 24 and terrified and convinced I was going to lose her. Rachel sat with me for 6 hours in that hospital waiting room. She brought me terrible coffee and told me stupid stories to keep me from spiraling. She didn't have to. We were just college friends. But she was there. Sarah's expression softened slightly. Now she needs someone to sit with her, I continued, and I'm not turning my back on that. Mom raised us better. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she sighed. You're right. You're completely right. And I'm a terrible person for even suggesting otherwise. But James promised me you're going to be smart about this. Get a lawyer. Document everything. Don't try to be a hero. I promise. And if it gets dangerous, if he escalates, you get Mia out. You send her to stay with me or with Mom and Dad. You don't keep her in the line of fire. I won't. Sarah looked at me for another moment, then nodded. Okay, what do you need me to do? That afternoon, while Rachel rested upstairs and Sarah researched lawyers who specialized in restraining orders, I went down to Home Depot and spent $800 I didn't really have. Security cameras, motion sensor lights, new deadbolts for every door, window locks, a safe for the handgun I'd bought after the divorce but never really learned how to use properly. I spent the rest of the day installing everything. By the time I picked Mia up from school, my house was as secure as I could make it on short notice. Mia noticed immediately. Daddy, why are there cameras everywhere? Just being extra careful, bug, because of the bad man. I stopped what I was doing, looked at her. What bad man? The one Miss Rachel is hiding from. I heard you and Aunt Sarah talking. Of course she had. Mia had inherited my quiet nature, but also my habit of paying attention to everything. I knelt down to her level. Yeah, there's someone who is mean to Miss Rachel, and we're making sure he can't bother her anymore, but you're safe, I promise. I know daddies don't break promises, she said seriously. Then more quietly, is Miss Rachel going to stay? For a little while, is that okay with you? Mia nodded. She's nice. And she's good at explaining why pterodactyls aren't actually dinosaurs. Most grown-ups just say, because they're not. But she told me about phylogenetic classification. I had no idea what that meant, but I was glad Rachel and Mia were bonding. That night after Mia was asleep, I sat with Rachel in the living room. She'd been quiet all day, withdrawn. I could see her retreating into herself. Talk to me, I said, about what? About what you're thinking. You've barely said 2 words since this morning. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm thinking that I've ruined your life. In less than 24 hours, I've put you and your daughter in danger, cost you money you probably don't have for security equipment, and dragged you into a situation that's only going to get worse. Rachel, I should leave. Tonight. Before he does something worse. Leaving doesn't make us safer. He already knows you're here, and you leaving just makes you more vulnerable. But Mia's fine. The school's been notified. Sarah knows the situation. I've got cameras and locks and a security system. We're as prepared as we can be. She shook her head. You don't understand what David's capable of. He's brilliant at manipulation. He'll find a way to make this all my fault. Make it look like I'm crazy, like I'm the one causing problems. By the time he's done, you'll believe him too. I won't. You don't know that. I turned to face her fully. Rachel, I may not have seen you in 8 years, but I remember who you were. Smart, passionate, kind. Someone who organized a charity 5K during finals week because she heard the children's hospital needed funding. Someone who stayed up until 3 in the morning helping me study for an exam in a class you weren't even taking. Someone who cared so much about everything and everyone that it lit you up from the inside. Her eyes were filling with tears. That person is still in there, I continued, and I don't care what lies he told you or what lies he's going to try to tell me. I see you, Rachel, the real you, and you're worth fighting for. A tear spilled over, traced down her cheek. I don't even know who the real me is anymore. He took that person apart piece by piece until there was nothing left. Then we'll find her again, together. She looked at me for a long moment, then very quietly. Why are you being so kind to me? I could have lied, could have said it was just the right thing to do or that I'd help anyone in her situation. But Rachel deserved the truth. Because 8 years ago I was in love with you, I said. I never told you, thought you were way out of my league. Then you graduated and left for medical school, and I figured I'd missed my chance. I dated other people, got married, had Mia, but I never really forgot about you. Her breath caught. I'm not telling you this to pressure you into anything, I added quickly. I'm not expecting anything from you. But you asked why I'm doing this, and that's why. Because the woman I fell in love with 8 years ago showed up on my porch needing help, and there's no universe where I turn her away. Rachel was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I can't. I don't, James. I'm so broken right now. I can't be what you want. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust a man again, let alone love one. I know, and that's okay. I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm just asking you to let me help. That's all. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of my hoodie. You're a good person, James Mitchell. I'm just a person trying to do the right thing. We sat in silence for a while. Then Rachel stood up. I should try to sleep. Long day tomorrow. Yeah, what's tomorrow? I'm going to start looking for a therapist, someone who specializes in abuse recovery, and maybe a lawyer if we can find one who'll take me seriously. We'll find both, I promised. We'll figure this out. She nodded, started toward the guest room, then stopped at the doorway and looked back. James, thank you for everything, for believing me when the police didn't, for not making me feel like this is all my fault, for just being you. Anytime. After she left, I stayed up a while longer, monitoring the security cameras on my phone, watching the empty street outside, waiting for David Brennan to make his next move. He came at 2:17 in the morning. The motion sensor alerted me first movement on the sidewalk across the street. I pulled up the camera feed, zooming in on the figure standing in the shadow of a large oak tree. Tall, expensive-looking coat, even in the grainy night vision image. Standing perfectly still, staring at my house. I watched for 30 seconds. He didn't move. Just stood there like he had all the time in the world. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness between streetlights. I saved the footage, sent it to Detective Santos with a timestamp. Then I went upstairs and checked on Mia. She was fast asleep, elephant clutched to her chest, completely unaware of the monster watching our house in the middle of the night. I stood in her doorway for a long moment, making a promise to her sleeping form. Nobody was going to hurt my daughter. Nobody was going to hurt Rachel. Whatever it took, whatever I had to do, I was going to keep them both safe, even if it meant going up against a man with money and power and a history of destroying anyone who got in his way. David Brennan had made his first mistake when he assumed I'd be too scared to fight back. He'd made his second mistake when he underestimated how far a man would go to protect the people he loved. And as I watched the empty street through the camera feed, I knew with absolute certainty that this was only the beginning. Brennan wasn't going to stop. He was going to escalate. And when he did, I needed to be ready. Because Rachel was right about one thing: he was brilliant, manipulative, dangerous. But he'd never gone up against a CPA who specialized in finding patterns in chaos, who'd spent 2 years learning how to be both mother and father to a little girl, who'd learned the hard way that sometimes the only thing standing between you and disaster was stubborn refusal to give up. David Brennan might be a surgeon, but I was going to cut him out of Rachel's life like the cancer he was, one way or another. The lawyer Jennifer Reeves had an office that matched her reputation, third-floor walk-up, in downtown Columbus, furniture that had seen better decades, but certificates on the wall from Harvard Law, and a track record that made family court judges nervous. She sat across from Rachel and me with reading glasses perched on her nose, flipping through the documentation I'd compiled over the past 3 days. This is good work, she finally said. Detailed, chronological. You've got screenshots, recordings, security footage. Most people come to me with nothing but their word against someone else's. So you can help us. Rachel's hands were clasped tight in her lap, knuckles white. Jennifer set the folder down. I can file for a restraining order. Whether Judge Hernandez grants it is another question entirely. Franklin County tends to require evidence of imminent physical danger, and what we have here is mostly psychological harassment and implied threats. His wife died under suspicious circumstances, I pointed out. That has to count for something. In Philadelphia, 3 years ago, case closed as accidental. Unless Pennsylvania reopens that investigation, it's background information at best. Jennifer looked at Rachel over her glasses. I'm not trying to discourage you, Ms. Morgan. I'm trying to set realistic expectations. Dr. Brennan will come to this hearing with expensive counsel. They'll argue that you're overreacting to a concerned ex-partner. They'll bring up your departure from residency, frame it as evidence of instability. They'll make you look unreliable. So what chance do we have? 60-40, maybe 50-50 if his lawyer's good. Jennifer leaned forward. But here's what I need you to understand. Even if we get the restraining order, it's just paper. Men like David Brennan don't always care about paper. You need a safety plan beyond the legal system. We discussed logistics, emergency contacts, safe houses. What to do if Brennan violated the order. The retainer was $5,000 plus court costs. I watched Rachel's face crumble at the number. I can cover it. I started, but she cut me off. No, split it, 50-50. I start my job Monday. I'll pay you back. Rachel. I need to contribute something, James. I need to not feel completely helpless. Jennifer was watching us with an expression I couldn't quite read. You two aren't together. We're friends, Rachel answered it quickly. Old friends. James is just helping me. Uh-huh, Jennifer made a note in her file. Well, just friends or not, Mr. Mitchell's testimony will be crucial. Judge Hernandez needs to see this isn't just a domestic dispute. Having a third-party witness, the harassment carries weight. We scheduled the hearing for 2 weeks out fastest Jennifer could get us on the docket. Walking out of her office, Rachel was quiet, that withdrawn look creeping back over her face. Hey, I touched her elbow. We're going to win this. You don't know that? No, but I know we're going to fight like hell. And sometimes that's enough. She managed a small smile. It didn't reach her eyes. The job at Columbus Community Health Network started on Monday morning, and Rachel spent the weekend spiraling. She tried on 4 different outfits Sunday night, rejecting each one, convinced she looked unprofessional or incompetent or like someone who couldn't be trusted with vulnerable patients. You look fine, I told her for the 5th time. Better than fine. You look like someone who knows what she's doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't worked with patients in 4 months. What if I freeze? What if I say something wrong? What if someone asks me why I left my program and I... Rachel, breathe. She sucked in air like she'd forgotten how. I guided her to sit on the couch, sat beside her. You're going to be great at this job. You're smart, you care about people, and you have medical training most health educators would kill for. Yes, you're nervous. That's normal. But you can do this. What if David shows up at my workplace? That fear was legitimate. I'd thought about it too. We've given them his photo. Security knows not to let him on the property. And you have my number on speed dial. Anything happens, you call me. She nodded but didn't look convinced. Mia wandered in wearing her dinosaur pajamas, dragging her backpack. Miss Rachel, I made you something for your first day. She pulled out a drawing, 3 stick figures labeled Daddy, Mia, Ahel, and Miss Rachel standing in front of a house. Above them, a sunshine with a smile. It's for good luck, Mia explained seriously. Teacher says having pictures of people who love you helps when you're nervous. Rachel's eyes went glassy. She took the drawing like it was made of gold. Thank you, sweetheart. This is perfect. You can do it, Mia announced with 6-year-old certainty. You're really smart. You taught me about phylogenetic classification. Rachel laughed through her tears. I'll try my best. I drove her to the health network Monday morning. She clutched Mia's drawing the whole way, and when she got out of the car, she looked back at me through the window with an expression that was pure terror. You've got this, I mouthed. She squared her shoulders and walked inside. The text came 3 hours later, made it through first class without crying or passing out, calling that a win. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. That afternoon, while Rachel was teaching her second prenatal education session, I made a call I'd been putting off. Tom Crawford ran a private investigation firm out of a converted warehouse in the short north. He'd done work for some of my clients' background checks, mostly asset searches for divorce cases. He was expensive, but thorough. I need you to dig into someone, I told him when we met, Dr. David Brennan, cardiothoracic surgeon out of Philadelphia. Tom raised an eyebrow. This about that Morgan woman staying with you? News traveled fast in Columbus. How did you... Your sister's dating my nephew. Small world. He pulled out a notepad. What am I looking for? Everything. His wife died 3 years ago under circumstances I don't like. She had multiple ER visits before the death. I need to know if there were police reports, if anyone suspected domestic violence, if there's any pattern of abuse beyond what made it into the news. That'll cost you. I'm talking deep dive, contacting sources in Philly, possibly paying for access to sealed records. How much? 3,000 retainer, 200 an hour after that, could run you 8-10 grand total. I thought about my savings account already depleted from the security equipment and the lawyer's retainer. Thought about Rachel's face when she talked about Brennan. Thought about Catherine Brennan dead at 38 from a fall. Do it. Tom made notes. One more thing, Mitchell. Men who kill their wives once, they don't usually stop at one. If this Brennan character is what you think he is, you're not just protecting your lady friend. You might be preventing another murder. The weight of that settled over me as I drove home. Rachel wasn't just running from an abusive ex. She might be running from a serial killer who'd gotten away with it once and figured he could do it again. Week 2 brought a package to my door. No return address, postmarked from Columbus. Rachel was at work, Mia at school. I opened it carefully, half expecting something disturbing. Inside was a medical textbook. Harrison's Principles of Internal Medicine. Thick, expensive, the kind of reference book medical students highlighted until it looked like rainbow confetti. I flipped it open. Rachel's name was written inside the front cover in neat handwriting. Stuck to the cardiac chapter was a post-it note. Remember how we'd read this together? You always struggled with the complex pathologies. You needed me to explain them. You still need me. You're not complete without me. D. My hands shook with rage. He'd been in her apartment. Somehow he'd gotten into her old place in Philadelphia and taken this book. Taken a piece of her past to prove he could. I called Detective Santos immediately. He sounded tired. Mr. Mitchell, I've got your previous reports here. The phone call, the email, the surveillance footage. I've reached out to Philadelphia PD about Dr. Brennan, but they're not interested in reopening a 3-year-old accidental death without significant new evidence. He's escalating. He sent her personal property taken from her apartment, which is concerning but not illegal. It was her apartment. If she left property behind legally, it's complicated. Did she file a police report about the break-in in Philadelphia? I closed my eyes. No. Then I've got nothing to arrest him for in Ohio. Mr. Mitchell, I understand your frustration, but until Dr. Brennan commits a crime in my jurisdiction, trespassing, assault, violating a restraining order, you don't have yet, I can't help you. So we just wait for him to hurt someone. Document everything. Keep building your case for the restraining order hearing. That's the best advice I can give you. When Rachel came home that evening, I showed her the textbook. She stared at it like it was a snake. That was in my apartment, in Philadelphia. I left it when I moved out. Her voice was flat shock setting in. How did he get into my apartment? He probably still had a key or convinced the landlord to let him in, said you forgot something important. 4 months. I've been gone 4 months, and she sat down hard on the couch. He's never going to stop, is he? Not without consequences, but we're going to give him consequences. She looked up at me. How the police won't help. He hasn't actually done anything illegal enough to arrest. He's just playing with us, showing he can reach me whenever he wants. Then we make him think he's winning until the hearing. We don't respond. We don't engage. We document everything and let him dig his own grave. And if he gets bored with psychological warfare, if he decides to... She couldn't finish the sentence. I sat beside him. Then we're ready. We have security. We have lawyers. We have people watching out for us. He's not invincible, Rachel. He's just a man who's good at manipulation. And you know what? I'm an accountant. I'm really good at finding patterns and building cases. He wants to play games fine, but I play the long game. She leaned against me just slightly. I could feel her trembling. I'm exhausted, James. Exhausted from being on edge constantly, from checking over my shoulder, from jumping at every shadow. This isn't living. This is surviving on fumes. I know, but survival is step one. Once we get through the hearing, once we have legal protection, it gets easier. You promise, I wanted to promise. Wanted to tell her everything would be fine and Brennan would disappear and she'd heal and we'd all live happily ever after. But I'd learned the hard way that some promises couldn't be kept. I promise I'll be here. Whatever happens, you're not alone in this. Week 3 started with Rachel's therapy appointment. Dr. Patricia Hayes specialized in trauma recovery, worked out of a quiet office near Ohio State's campus. Rachel had found her through the health network's resources, and she'd been seeing her twice a week since starting the job. I drove Rachel to the appointment, waited in the parking lot. She came out 50 minutes later looking wrung out but lighter somehow, like she'd set down a weight she'd been carrying too long. Dr. Hayes thinks I have PTSD, she announced, getting into the car. Officially, from the sustained emotional abuse and the stalking. Is that helpful, having a diagnosis? Weirdly, yes. It means I'm not crazy, I'm not overreacting. There's a name for what's wrong with me, and there are treatments that work. She buckled her seatbelt. She also said I'm doing better than she expected. Most people in my situation are completely non-functional. I'm working, taking care of myself, building a support system. She called it resilience. You are resilient. I don't feel resilient. I feel like I'm held together with duct tape and sheer stubbornness. Sometimes that's what resilience looks like. She smiled at that. A real smile, the first one I'd seen in days. The grocery store incident happened on Saturday. We needed supplies. Maya had decided she required 17 specific ingredients for a science experiment that I suspected was just regular cookies with food coloring, and Rachel offered to come along. Get out of the house. Pretend it normal life for an hour. Mia was debating the merits of different chocolate chip brands when I noticed Rachel had gone still in the next aisle over. Not moving still, not breathing still. I followed her line of sight. David Brennan stood at the end of the aisle, expensive casual wear, perfect hair, holding a shopping basket, like he belonged here. Like this was coincidence and not calculated stalking. Rachel, his voice carried over the generic pop music playing through the store speakers. You're looking well. I was moving before I consciously decided to putting myself between them. You need to leave. Brennan looked at me like I was a particularly uninteresting insect. I'm shopping in a public grocery store, perfectly legal. Unless you plan to assault me in front of witnesses, we have a restraining order hearing in 3 days. This is going to look great for your case. We don't have a restraining order yet. Currently, I'm a concerned citizen who happened to run into his ex-fiancée at Kroger. Ex-fiancée, the word hit like a punch. I turned to Rachel. You were engaged to him. Her face had gone white. Yes, for 3 months last year. I broke it off. Brennan's smile was poisonous. She didn't mention that Rachel has a tendency to leave out inconvenient truths, like how she said yes to my proposal, how she wore my grandmother's ring, how she planned our wedding before she decided she was not ready. She was not ready to marry an abuser, I shot back. Abuser, I loved her. Still love her, Mo. Rachel had some challenges in her residency program. Stress-related. I tried to help, but she interpreted my support as criticism. Now she's convinced herself I'm some kind of monster. He looked past me to Rachel. Baby, we can work through this. Come home. Let's talk about this rationally. Don't call me baby. Rachel's voice shook but held. We're done, David. We've been done. You said that before. You always come back. Mia appeared, tugging my jeans. Daddy, I found the good chocolate chips. She stopped looking between us, sensing the tension. Brennan's gaze dropped to her. Something predatory flickered across his face. This must be Mia. You're even prettier than your school photos. Every protective instinct I had roared to life. Don't talk to my daughter. Don't look at my daughter. Don't even think about my daughter. Merely observing that she's adorable. Is that illegal? Daddy, Mia's voice was small, now scared. She'd picked up on the threat even if she didn't understand it. I'm calling the police. I pulled out my phone. By all means, I'll explain that I was shopping and you threatened me. That you've been keeping my fiancée from me against her will. That Ms. Morgan has a history of mental health issues and you're enabling her delusions. Brennan's expression was pleasant, reasonable, the face of a man who saved lives for a living. Who do you think they'll believe? But he was already backing away, hands raised in mock surrender. No need for drama. I'll finish my shopping elsewhere. Rachel, I'll see you soon. We have so much to discuss. He walked away, disappeared around the corner. My hands were shaking. Rachel had collapsed against the shopping cart, hyperventilating. Mia was crying. Daddy, who was that? Why was he looking at me like that? I scooped her up. Nobody important, bug. Just a very rude man who doesn't understand boundaries. I want to go home. We're going, right now. I abandoned the cart, got Rachel and Mia to the car. Rachel was having a full panic attack by the time I got them buckled in, gasping for air, hands clutching her chest. Can't breathe, James, I can't. Yes, you can. Look at me. Rachel, look at me. I cupped her face, forced her to focus. Breathe with me. In for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4. It took 15 minutes to get her calmed down enough to drive. Mia stayed quiet in the back seat, uncharacteristically subdued. At home, I got them both inside and immediately called Detective Santos. Left a message about the grocery store confrontation. Then called Jennifer Reeves. This is good for us, she said when I finished explaining. He approached in a public place. Witnesses, security footage, made veiled references to your daughter. That's stalking behavior, and it demonstrates he's willing to violate boundaries. Judge Hernandez will not like this. Good, because I'm about 3 seconds from taking matters into my own hands. Don't. That's exactly what he wants. He's trying to provoke you into doing something violent so he can paint you as the aggressor. Stay calm, document everything. Let the system work. After I hung up, I found Rachel in the guest room sitting on the bed with her knees pulled to her chest. She looked so small, so defeated. I'm sorry, she whispered when I came in. I should have told you about the engagement. I was embarrassed, ashamed that I said yes to someone who treated me like that. You have nothing to be ashamed of. He manipulated you. That's what abusers do. But I'm still putting you and Mia in danger. You saw how he looked at her, James. He knows the fastest way to hurt me is through her. I have to leave, tonight, before he... No. You don't understand. Rachel, listen to me. He's escalating because he knows we're close to getting legal protection. He's trying to scare you into running so you'll drop the restraining the order case. If you leave now, he wins. You'll spend the rest of your life running and he'll keep finding you. So what do? We stand our ground, we go to that hearing on Tuesday, we get the restraining order, and then we make it very clear that if David Brennan comes within 500 feet of any of us, he goes to jail. She looked at me with those brown eyes full of fear and exhaustion, and something else, hope, maybe. The fragile kind that's afraid to believe things might actually get better. Why are you doing this? The question came out barely above a whisper. Really doing this? Spending money risking your daughter fighting my battles? Why, Mish, I sat on the bed beside her, leaving space between us. You want the truth, please? Because 20 years from now, I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror. And I can't do that if I turn my back on someone who needs help. Because Mia is watching, learning what it means to be a good person, and I need to show her that you stand up for people, even when it's hard. Because Jennifer left me when things got difficult, and I know what it feels like to be abandoned when you're drowning. I paused. But mostly because it's you. And 8 years ago, you were the person who made me believe I could be more than I thought I was. You saw something in me worth knowing, so I'm returning the favor. A tear tracked down her cheek. I'm not that person anymore. The girl you knew in college, she's gone. He destroyed her. No, he tried to, but she's still in there. I see glimpses of her when you're teaching your classes, when you're explaining phylogenetic classification to Mia, when you stand up to him, even though you're terrified. She's not gone, Rachel. She's just buried under trauma, and we're going to help her find her way back. She leaned into me, then just rested her head against my shoulder. I put my arm around her carefully like she might spook. Thank you, she breathed, for not giving up on me even when I've given up on myself. We sat like that for a while, long enough that I heard Mia's footsteps on the stairs, her bedroom door closing. Long enough that the afternoon light faded to evening. Long enough that I started to think maybe possibly Rachel might actually be okay someday. Tom Crawford called on Monday morning with his preliminary findings. Got something you need to see. Can you come to the office? An hour later, I was sitting across from him, looking at a folder thick enough to use as a doorstop. Catherine Brennan. Tom visited the ER 6 times in 2 years. You already knew that. What you didn't know is that 3 of those visits she told nurses she was afraid of her husband. They documented it, made referrals to domestic violence resources. But Catherine never followed through. He slid police reports across the desk. Neighbors called 911 twice for domestic disturbances. Both times, by the time police arrived, everything was calm. Catherine said it was a misunderstanding. Brennan was apologetic professional. Cops left. They didn't arrest him. For what? No visible injuries. Catherine wasn't pressing charges, and Brennan's a respected surgeon. Small-town cops aren't going to arrest a doctor on a noise complaint. Tom pulled out another document. This is interesting. Catherine had been to a divorce attorney 2 weeks before she died, filed preliminary paperwork, was planning to leave him. And then she conveniently fell down the stairs. Gets better. Autopsy showed injuries consistent with the fall, but there were also older bruises. Different stages of healing. Coroner noted them but didn't flag them as suspicious because domestic violence wasn't part of the official inquiry. Tom leaned back. Here's the thing, Mitchell. I contacted a detective in Philadelphia cold case unit. Guy named Morrison, been on the force 30 years. He remembers the Brennan case. Always thought it was hinky, but couldn't prove anything. I sent him everything I found. He's reopening the investigation. How long will that take? Months, maybe years. But it means there's an active investigation into David Brennan for potential homicide. That's huge for your restraining order case. I felt something loosen in my chest. Finally, someone in authority was taking this seriously. There's more, Tom continued. Found a former medical student who worked with Brennan. She filed a complaint about inappropriate behavior, harassment, unwanted advances. The hospital quietly settled, made her sign an NDA. But she was willing to talk to me off the record. Says Brennan has a pattern. Finds vulnerable women, gets them under his control, then punishes them if they try to leave. Can she testify? Not without violating her NDA. But I documented everything she said. Jennifer can use it as background, show a pattern of behavior even if it's not admissible evidence. I left Tom's office with the folder and a sense that maybe, just maybe, we were building a case strong enough to stop David Brennan. That night, Mia couldn't sleep. She kept coming into my room, climbing into bed. Daddy, I'm scared. What are you scared of, Bug? The bad man at the store, he looked at me like I was a toy he wanted to take. My blood ran cold. 6 years old, and she'd picked up on Brennan's predatory nature with perfect clarity. He can't take you. I won't let him. And Miss Rachel's not going to let anything happen to you either. Is Miss Rachel going to stay forever? I don't know. I want her to stay. She's nice and she doesn't treat me like I'm a baby, and she makes you smile more. She does. Mia nodded seriously. You've been sad since Mommy left, but when Miss Rachel's here, you smile like you used to. Out of the mouths of children. I hugged her tight. Get some sleep, Bug. Big day tomorrow. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow we go to court and make sure the bad man has to stay far away from all of us. Tuesday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth and clear skies, the kind of perfect autumn day that felt like the universe mocking us. Jennifer met us at the Franklin County Courthouse at 8:30, already caffeinated and focused. Remember, she told Rachel while we waited outside the courtroom, answer only what you're asked. Don't elaborate unless I signal you. Don't let his lawyer provoke you into getting emotional. Judges don't like drama. What if I can't hold it together? Then you pause, take a breath, and continue. Showing emotion is fine. Breaking down completely makes you look unstable. Jennifer softened slightly. You're going to do great. Just tell the truth. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, wood paneling and fluorescent lights, and a bench where Judge Maria Hernandez already sat reviewing files. She was late 50s, gray hair pulled back severely, expression that suggested she'd seen every manipulation tactic in the book. David Brennan entered with his attorney Richard Carlson, silver-haired and expensive suited, the kind of lawyer who defended white-collar criminals and made them look sympathetic. Brennan looked perfect as always. Pressed clothes, concerned expression, the picture of a worried ex-partner just wanting what was best. He didn't look at Rachel. That was calculated, I realized. Pretending she didn't exist like this whole proceeding was beneath him. Judge Hernandez called the court to order. Jennifer stood. Your Honor, we're here to request a 2-year restraining order against Dr. David Brennan on behalf of Rachel Morgan. Dr. Brennan has engaged in systematic harassment, stalking, and threatening behavior toward Ms. Morgan for the past 4 months. We have extensive documentation. Carlson stood. Your Honor, This is an unfortunate case of a young woman who ended a relationship and is now using the legal system to harass her former partner. Dr. Brennan is a respected surgeon who has done nothing but express concern for Miss Morgan's well-being after she abruptly left her medical career under troubling circumstances. And so it began. Jennifer called Rachel to the stand first. Rachel was sworn in, sat down, folded her hands in her lap to stop them shaking. Ms. Morgan, please describe your relationship with Dr. Brennan. Rachel's voice started soft but steadied as she spoke. We met 2 years ago at University Hospital in Philadelphia. I was a resident. He was a visiting professor in cardiothoracic surgery. We started dating. At first, he was supportive, encouraging, but gradually he became controlling. She described the progression, the criticism, the isolation from friends and family. The way he'd convinced her every mistake at the hospital was her fault, every failure a reflection of her inadequacy. Did Dr. Brennan ever physically harm you? Twice. Once he grabbed my arm hard enough to leave bruises that lasted 2 weeks. Another time he pushed me against a wall during an argument. Jennifer showed photos. The bruises were faded but visible. After you ended the relationship, did Dr. Brennan accept your decision? No, he called constantly, showed up at my parents' house, followed me. He sent me text messages saying I'd made a mistake, that I needed him, that I'd never survive without him. Jennifer submitted phone records, text screenshots, the email with the photo of us leaving the police station. Ms. Morgan, on Saturday, October 19th, did you encounter Dr. Brennan at a Kroger grocery store in Columbus? Yes, he approached me, spoke to me, made comments about Mr. Mitchell's daughter that felt threatening. Objection, Carlson stood. The witness is characterizing comments based on her emotional state, not their actual content. Sustained. Ms. Morgan, what exactly did Dr. Brennan say? Rachel took a breath. He said, this must be Mia. You're even prettier than your school photos. He shouldn't have known her name or what she looked like. Murmurs in the courtroom. Judge Hernandez made a note. Carlson cross-examined, tried to paint Rachel as unstable, over-emotional someone who'd failed at her career and was blaming Brennan for her own shortcomings. Rachel held steady through most of it. Then Carlson asked, isn't it true that you were engaged to Dr. Brennan, that you said yes to his marriage proposal? Yes. And you planned a wedding, looked at venues? Yes, but... So this wasn't a casual relationship. This was a committed partnership that you chose to enter into, then chose to abandon. I left because I was being supposed, or because you couldn't handle the pressures of medical training and needed someone to blame. Objection, Jennifer was on her feet, badgering the witness. Withdrawn, Carlson smiled. No further questions. Jennifer called me next. I described the phone calls, the surveillance, the grocery store confrontation. Submitted security footage from my house showing Brennan standing across the street at 2 in the morning. Carlson barely questioned me. Probably figured I was just a dupe being manipulated by Rachel. Then came the surprise witness. Jennifer had tracked down Catherine Brennan's sister, Linda Morrison, convinced her to testify via video call from Pittsburgh. Linda appeared on the courtroom monitor, red-eyed but determined. My sister was terrified of David Brennan. She told me he hit her, choked her, said if she ever left him, he'd rather see her dead than with someone else. 2 weeks later, she was dead. Objection. This is irrelevant and prejudicial. Mrs. Brennan's death was investigated and ruled accidental. Your Honor, Jennifer countered, this speaks to pattern of behavior. The Pennsylvania State Police have reopened the investigation into Catherine Brennan's death based on new evidence. Dr. Brennan is currently under investigation for a potential homicide. The courtroom erupted. Judge Hernandez banged her gavel. Brennan's mask slipped for just a second. I saw rage flash across his face before he controlled it. Finally, Carlson called Brennan to testify. He was smooth practiced. Loved Rachel, still loved her. Only wanted to help when she was struggling. May have been too invested, too protective, but that came from a place of caring. The phone calls were concern, not harassment. The grocery store encounter was coincidence. He was in Columbus, visiting colleagues at Ohio State Medical Center. Doctor. Brennan, are you currently under investigation for your wife's death? The Philadelphia police have questions. I'm cooperating fully, but I didn't hurt my wife. Catherine's death was a tragedy that I still grieve. Smooth, reasonable, sympathetic. Then Jennifer stood for cross-examination. Dr. Brennan, you testified that you encountered Ms. Morgan by coincidence at Kroger. Which Kroger location, the one on Reed Road? That's 3 miles from Mr. Mitchell's house and 8 miles from Ohio State Medical Center. Strange coincidence. Brennan didn't respond. You also testified that you called Mr. Mitchell out of concern for Mrs. Morgan. Yet you knew his address, knew he had a daughter, knew which school she attended. How did you obtain that information? I, I may have looked him up online. So you researched Mr. Mitchell, found his home address, identified his daughter's school, then claimed it was all concern for Ms. Morgan's well-being. Brennan's jaw tightened. I wanted to know who was influencing Rachel, or you wanted to intimidate them. No further questions. Judge Hernandez called a recess to review evidence. We waited in the hallway for 45 minutes that felt like years. Rachel paced, I sat, Jennifer made phone calls. Finally, we were called back in. Judge Hernandez looked severe. I've reviewed the evidence presented. Dr. Brennan's behavior constitutes a clear pattern of harassment and stalking. The surveillance, the unwanted contact, the appearance at Ms. Morgan's workplace, and at a grocery store 3 miles from her current residence, these are not the actions of a concerned ex-partner. Brennan's face darkened. Furthermore, the ongoing investigation into Catherine Brennan's death, combined with testimony about Dr. Brennan's controlling behavior toward her, suggests a dangerous pattern. I'm granting a 2-year restraining order. Dr. Brennan must maintain a distance of 500 feet from Miss Morgan, Mr. Mitchell, his daughter Mia Mitchell, Ms. Morgan's place of employment, and Mr. Mitchell's residence in his daughter's school. Dr. Brennan will also surrender any firearms and submit to GPS monitoring for 6 months. Your Honor, Carlson stood. That's excessive. It's appropriate given the circumstances. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest. Hernandez banged her gavel. Court dismissed. Rachel sagged against me. Jennifer was already talking about next steps, about filing paperwork, about ensuring Brennan complied with the monitoring requirement. But I was watching Brennan across the courtroom. He stared at Rachel with an expression of pure rage, barely controlled. His lips moved and I could read them clearly. This isn't over. Then his lawyer was herding him out, and we were alone in the hallway, and Rachel was crying in relief tears this time, the kind that come after holding yourself together for too long. We did it, she breathed. Oh my God, James, we actually did it. You did it. You were brave enough to stand up there and tell your story. Because you were here. I couldn't have done it alone. Jennifer packed up her briefcase. Congratulations, but stay vigilant. Restraining orders are paper. They work when people respect them. Men like Brennan sometimes don't. Her warning hung in the air as we walked out of the courthouse into afternoon sunshine. For the moment, though, we'd won. We had legal protection. We had breathing room. The question was whether David Brennan would respect the court's order or whether he'd decide his own rules mattered more than the law. Based on everything I'd learned about him, I suspected the latter. And I was right. The call came in at 11:30 that night, 3 hours after we'd put Mia to bed and celebrated the restraining order with takeout, Chinese, and something that almost felt like normalcy. My phone lit up with Detective Santos's number. Mr. Mitchell, we have a situation. David Brennan was just arrested outside your property. Uniformed officers responded to your security system alert. I was already moving toward the window. What happened? He was standing on the sidewalk across the street, technically not violating the 500-foot perimeter, but close enough that dispatch wanted to check it out. When officers approached, Dr. Brennan was intoxicated, .18 blood alcohol. Got combative when they asked him to leave. We're booking him for public intoxication and disorderly conduct. Rachel had followed me to the window. I could see the patrol car's lights painting the street in red and blue. They searched his vehicle pursuant to arrest. Mr. Mitchell, he had rope duct tape and a hunting knife in the trunk. My blood turned to ice. He was planning to. We don't know what he was planning. But combined with his restraining order violation, he was closer than 500 feet, GPS confirms it, we're holding him without bail. Judge considers him a flight risk and danger to others. After Santos hung up, I pulled Rachel away from the window. She was shaking teeth, actually chattering, despite the warm house. He was going to take me. Her voice came out hollow. Tonight. That's why he had the rope and oh God, James, if he'd come earlier, if you hadn't been home. But I was home, and now he's in jail. They're filing charges, restraining order violation, possession of weapons with intent, public intoxication. He's not getting out anytime soon. You don't know that. He has money, expensive lawyers. He'll... Rachel, listen to me. He showed his hand. Whatever sympathy judges might have had for him as a concerned ex-partner, gone. He proved Jennifer right. Restraining orders don't work on men who think they're above the law. But now he's facing real consequences. She collapsed onto the couch, pulling her knees to her chest. I sat beside her, close enough to offer comfort, far enough to give her space. When does this end? She whispered. When do I get to stop being afraid? You already stopped running. That's why you're still here. I reached over, took her hand. You're not running anymore, Rachel. You're standing your ground, and that's the bravest thing you could do. The weeks that followed brought a strange kind of peace. Brennan remained in jail awaiting trial. His fancy lawyers couldn't get him released with the weapons charge and restraining order violation. Pennsylvania authorities had formally reopened Catherine's case, and suddenly David Brennan's reputation wasn't so untouchable anymore. Rachel threw herself into work. The Community Health Network promoted her to assistant director after 2 months, impressed by her dedication and the way her prenatal classes had the highest attendance and best outcomes in the program's history. She came home exhausted but satisfied in a way I hadn't seen before. One night in early December, she was curled up on the couch reviewing curriculum plans while I helped Mia with math homework at the kitchen table. The scene was so domestic, so normal, that I almost didn't notice when it had become our routine. Rachel had stopped calling the guest room. It was just her room now. Her clothes hung in the closet, her books stacked on the nightstand, her presence woven into the fabric of our household. Daddy, is Miss Rachel going to live here forever? Mia's question cut through the comfortable silence. Rachel looked up from her laptop, suddenly very interested in her curriculum plans. That's up to Miss Rachel Bug. This is her home as long as she wants it to be. But when Mr. Brennan's trial is over, will she leave out of the mouths of children asking the question that I'd been avoiding for weeks? Rachel set her laptop aside. Mia, can I tell you something? Mia nodded seriously. When I first came here, I thought I'd stay a few days, maybe a week, just until things were safe. But your dad and you made me feel like I belonged somewhere for the first time in years. So I'm not planning to leave. Not unless you want me to. I don't want you to leave. You're part of our family now, right, Daddy? Every eye turned to me. Rachel's expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the vulnerability there. The fear that I might say something that would break this fragile peace we'd built. Right, I confirmed. Rachel's family. The word hung in the air, family meaning more than it said. That night after Mia was asleep, Rachel found me in the living room staring at financial reports I wasn't actually reading. She sat on the opposite end of the couch, tucking her feet under her. Thank you for what you said earlier to Mia about family. I meant it. I know, that's what scares me. She picked at a loose thread on the throw pillow. James, I need to tell you something. Dr. Hayes thinks I'm ready to... She says I've made enough progress that I should start thinking about what I want. Not what's safe or practical, but what I actually want for my future. My chest tightened. This felt like the beginning of a goodbye speech. And what do you want? She looked at me, then really looked at me. I want to stop being so terrified of trust that I push away the best thing that's happened to me in years. I want to believe that not every man is going to hurt me. I want... Her voice dropped. I want to try to... with you, if you still want that. After everything you've seen, everything I put you through. Hope bloomed in my chest, fragile and tentative. Rachel, you didn't put me through anything. You came here needing help. I chose to give it. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you all over again. I'm still broken in a lot of ways. PTSD doesn't just disappear. I still have nightmares. Still panic sometimes over nothing. It's going to be messy. I don't care about messy. I care about you. She moved closer, close enough that I could see the tears gathering in her eyes. I don't know how to do this, the healthy relationship thing. All I know is abuse and control, and so we'll figure it out together. No pressure, no expectations. Just us. However that looks. I might be terrible at it. Then we'll be terrible at it together. She laughed through her tears. Then, with a courage I could see cost her everything, she leaned forward and kissed me. It was tentative questioning, nothing like the passionate kisses in movies. It was real and careful and perfect. When she pulled back, her hands were trembling. Was that okay? More than okay. I haven't since David, I haven't been able to even think about physical affection without feeling sick. But with you, it's different. You're different. We can go as slow as you need, there's no rush. She kissed me again, less tentative this time. When we finally broke apart, she was smiling, the first truly unguarded smile I'd seen from her. I'm falling in love with you, James Mitchell. It terrifies me, but I'm doing it anyway. Good, because I'm already there. Have been for months. We spent the rest of the evening on that couch talking about nothing and everything, making plans that felt like promises. And for the first time since Rachel had collapsed on my porch, the future didn't feel like something to survive. It felt like something to hope for. Brennan's trial came in March. The prosecution stacked charges like building blocks: restraining order violation, stalking, attempted assault, weapons possession with intent to harm. The defense tried to paint it as a misunderstanding, a man driven to desperate measures by mental health struggles and alcohol abuse. Rachel had to testify again. She'd gotten stronger over the months, therapy and time and distance, giving her back pieces of herself she'd thought lost. But I could still see her hands shaking as she took the stand. The prosecution walked her through the relationship, the escalation, the fear. Brennan's attorney tried the same tactics as before, painting Rachel as unstable, vindictive, a woman scorned. But this time they had Catherine's sister Linda testifying in person. They had the reopened investigation in Pennsylvania. They had medical experts discussing the pattern of injuries Catherine sustained. They had my testimony about the stalking behavior, the threats to Mia. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. 5 years in prison, eligible for parole after 3. The Catherine Brennan case would take longer to prosecute, but the prosecutor assured us they had enough to file charges eventually. Rachel sat beside me in the courtroom as the judge handed down the sentence. I felt her relax incrementally with each year added to the count. When it was over, she turned to me with tears streaming down her face. It's really over. It's really over. We walked out of the courthouse into spring sunshine. Rachel's shoulders straightened, the constant vigilance finally releasing its grip. She wasn't completely free. PTSD didn't vanish with a verdict, but she was safer. And safe was a start. Emma Parker came by the house that evening with her 6-month-old baby. Wanted you to meet him properly, Emma announced. Miss Rachel, this is James, named him after Mr. Mitchell here because you helped me when I needed it most. Rachel took the baby carefully. Hi, little James, you're perfect. You were right, Emma said, about taking care of myself first. Can't save nobody else if you're drowning yourself. After Emma left, Rachel was quiet, processing. You okay? Yeah, just thinking. A year ago I was drowning. Now I'm helping others find their way. It's strange how life works. You did that yourself. With help from you. She paused. James Dr. Phillips emailed. My old residency program. They're offering me a chance to come back. Full scholarship. My stomach dropped. Philadelphia, 2 years away. That's amazing. It was what I wanted before. She moved closer. But I don't want to go back. I don't want to be a pediatrician anymore. What I wanted was to help people. And I'm doing that here. Rachel, you can't throw away. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing. She took my hands. I've spent years doing what others expected. For the first time, I'm listening to myself. And I want this. You, Mia, my work here. That's choosing, not settling. Relief flooded through me. Are you sure? I've never been more sure. I kissed her, then deep and full of promise. So I'm staying. For real. 2 months later, Rachel moved into my room, our room. Mia adjusted with 6-year-old practicality. Does this mean Rachel's your girlfriend now? Yes, Bug. Is that okay? Perfect. Now we're a real family. That night, Rachel and I stood in the backyard looking at the winter dormant garden. We should plant something, Rachel said. It's something that grows back stronger. Sunflowers. They're resilient. Follow the light even when conditions are tough. Perfect. The next Saturday, we planted seeds, Rachel, Mia, and me covered in dirt, laughing, building something that would grow. Mia narrated in scientific detail while Rachel added corrections. Will they really grow? Mia asked. If we take care of them, Rachel said. Water, sunlight, patience. Give them what they need and they'll grow strong. Like you, Rachel. Daddy took care of you and you grew strong. Rachel's eyes filled with tears, the good kind. Yes, sweetie, exactly like that. Later, after Mia went inside, Rachel whispered, thank you for giving me a place to grow. You did the growing. You were there every step. When I wanted to run, wanted to give up, you told me I was worth fighting for. That's rare, extraordinary. It's what people do for people they love. David taught me most people want to control you. You taught me real love makes you bigger, stronger, more yourself. She took my hand. I'm more myself now than I've ever been, because you saw who I was even when I couldn't. I pulled her close. I love you, Rachel Morgan. Every piece of you. I love you too. And James, I'm not broken anymore. Maybe I was just bent, waiting for the right conditions to straighten out. The sunflowers sprouted 2 weeks later. By summer, they were taller than Mia, faces tracking the sun. We took photos, our little family smiling in golden light. One October evening, exactly a year after the restraining order hearing, we had takeout, Chinese, and fortune cookies. Mia's adventure awaits around every corner. Rachel's, the best is yet to come. Mine, home is where the heart finds peace. Later, Rachel showed me something on her phone. A letter declining the residency offer. You sure? I've never been more sure. That night, after Mia was asleep, Rachel sat beside me with a small wrapped box. It's not Christmas yet. I know, but I needed you to have this now. Inside was a key. It's to the house, she explained. Not a copy you gave me because I needed somewhere to stay. This is my key to our home that I'm choosing. I turned the key over, feeling its weight. I've been thinking about what Dr. Hayes said about making decisions from a healthy place. Rachel continued, and I am sure about this house, about you, about us. She took my hands. I'm not asking because I'm dependent. I'm asking because I'm strong enough to be a real partner. Because when I think about my future, you're in every version. Rachel Morgan, are you asking you to marry me? Yes, I know it's not traditional. I know my parents will think I'm rushing. But I'm 31 and I've spent too much life doing what others think I should. So I'm asking, will you marry me? The question hung between us, carrying everything we'd survived. Yes, I managed. Yes, absolutely yes. She kissed me then, deep and sure, no hesitation. I didn't even have a ring planned. You gave me a key to our home. What's more romantic? We sat planning the small wedding, immediate family. Mia as flower girl, Sarah as maid of honor. I want to tell Mia first thing in the morning. She's going to lose her mind. Later, I lay awake thinking about the journey, the late night knock, the fear, the slow climb toward healing, the joy scattered among hard days. Worth it. Worth it to arrive here, Rachel sleeping peacefully, a future spreading before us, a child upstairs who'd gained a mother and a love given back in ways I'd never imagined. The sunflower seeds would go in the ground in spring. We'd watch them grow, same as we'd watch Mia grow, same as we'd watch our life together grow. Patient and steady, giving everything the time and care it needed. Some stories end with dramatic gestures. Ours ended with a key and a question and the quiet certainty that we'd chosen each other fully and freely, with eyes open to both beauty and difficulty ahead. And really, that was the best kind of ending. The kind that was actually a beginning.